So I'm 6'5", 260 pounds. Me and you are walking through a narrow entrance at a mall. I'm going one way, you're going the other way, and I think nothing of you and give you a little, hard shoulder there. What happens to me? Do I end up in a chokehold or do you let it go?
I know. I don't have a chip on my shoulder. I don't have anything to prove to anybody.
Yeah.
Obviously, how you respond, I'm going to say, excuse me, sorry about that. And you respond, and where it goes from there is really kind of up to you. But I'm a smiler. Even when I'm walking to the cage, people are freaking out because I'm smiling.
Yeah.
I'm in my element. I'm having fun. This is my opportunity. Everybody thinks I'm some sort of sociopath because I'm winking at people and smiling walking out of the tunnel. I've just never been that guy. I've always had a smile. I got more push-ups in basic training for smiling than anything else.
But you're laughing all the time.
When I'm nervous, when the tension's up, I'm probably going to be smiling.
All right, everybody, welcome to part 2 of the Randy Couture 3-part series on 2000% Raise. This was not originally supposed to be 3 parts, but we have had so many gems from Randy, and he gave us a good 90 minutes of his time, unanticipated, so we've separated it out into 3 different episodes. I got to tell you, I did not have 3 different monologues put together for this, so I'm just going off the cuff today, and I'm going to do something a little bit fun. Randy said, if you listen closely in the beginning of part 1, he lives in Las Vegas. That's where he has his gym. So why not do something a little bit fun? People that follow me know that, I go to Sin City and the casinos in the Bahamas every once in a while as well. So I know a little something about gambling. I'm one of the few out there that studied the table. You walk me into a casino, I could tell you every casino advantage down to the percentage point on every bet you could make on a craps table, on a roulette wheel, most of them on blackjack. And I thought I'd share today what I do when I gamble real briefly before we dive back into part 2. Craps and blackjack are the only 2 games you should be playing. Listen, roulette and baccarat, they have decent odds as well. I get that, but they're freaking boring. You're here for the adrenaline rush, not to be bored if you want to gamble. I mean, hey, listen, man, if you're not there for the adrenaline, if you're not superstitious, then don't gamble, because the casino has an advantage on you to some degree on everything. So if you're not there for that adrenaline, if it doesn't get you up, why you bother gambling? Because let me break down every game to you, no matter how you look at it, okay? Let's just say we simplified this and said, okay, if I flip a coin and it's tails, you pay me $50. And if I flip a coin and it's heads, I pay you $52. Would you take that bet if you had to play 1,000 times? No, you wouldn't, because you know you're going to lose. All right? Well, all the casino games are just putting shiny disco balls into that formula. All right? Shiny disco balls. Sparkling balls. Shiny disco balls too, I guess. But sparkling balls into those formula, shiny objects into that formula. At the end of the day, when you slice through it all, you're paying them $52 for one outcome. They're paying you $50 for the opposite outcome. And that's it. And things that should be closer to 50-50. All right. That's it. That's all you got to remember. Now, having said that, if you're there for the adrenaline rush, like I am sometimes, I'm going to make this simple. All right. Starting with blackjack. In 1956, a group of mathematicians called the Aberdeen Four came up with something called basic strategy blackjack. All right. This is the Bible for blackjack players. It tells you when to hit, when to stand, when to double down, when to split. And it's not intuitive. You wouldn't know all these rules. You think you know, but you don't. So like, for instance, if you had an ace to 7 and the dealer had a 9, what would you do? Think fast. Well, if you knew basic strategy by heart, you would know it. All right. You have a 6 and a 6. Dealer has a 5. What are you doing? What are you doing? Exactly. You had to think about it. Listen, and you don't even know if you're right. Go check basic strategy blackjack rules to get the answer. All right. Now, my strategy is to play basic strategy and find a casino that allows surrender. All right? People leave that piece out. Ask the casino you're playing at if they allow surrender. I don't play by all the basic strategy surrender rules. I just surrender one time, and that's if I have a 16 and the dealer has a 10. If I have 16 and the dealer has a 10, I surrender. And what that means is I'm not even going to play the hand, but I lose half my bet. So if I had $10 out, surrender. They take $5 of it. I keep 5 and I don't even play the hand. Trust me, 16 against the 10, if they allow surrender, do it. Over time, you're going to be much better off. A lot of casinos don't allow it, unfortunately, but many do, especially if you're in the high limit room. Always ask. They don't go around advertising that shit. All right? In craps, what I do in craps is very simple. Everyone should do this to maximize your odds. You take the pass line bet, and then you put full odds behind it. Now, if full odds are 100 times odds or 10 times odds, listen, don't do that unless you got a shitload of money on you. All right. But most of the time, especially in Vegas, it's 3, 4, or 5 times odds. So you put $25 on the pass line, then either 75, 100, or 125 behind it. Divide or multiply those numbers accordingly. If you're higher or lower than that bet, I'm not going to even say what I am because it's too much. So you put that pass line bet out there, take full odds, then they roll, points established. You put a come bet out there. You put on that come bet another points established. You take full odds on that. Then they roll again, another points established. With another come bet, you put another come bet out, another points established. You take full odds on that. So if your pass line bet and 2 come bets going at the same time, chances are you're going to win as the dice rolls. But that 7 is the killer. Everything comes tumbling down. Never do the third come bet. 1 pass line and 2 come. Why do I say never do that third comeback? Because it's too much pressure, man. A 7, you're just losing way too much money at once. 2 comebacks is aggressive enough. And the pass line bet. All right. So that was a little shout out to Randy in his hometown of Sin City, Las Vegas. Now we're going to get back into the interview. We left off on part 1, right in the middle of this conversation that you're going into now. You know, you went from being unknown to beating the freaking 19-year-old. It's like, it's like freaking some nobody in the WWE beating Hulk Hogan on Saturday morning TV when they're not supposed to win or something like that. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden you're a household name in that, in that context. I got to think though, man, like, you're four fights in 6 months, as you said. I mean, you got to have some fucking balls, man. You're looking at these guys like, no, fuck you. I'll go to Japan, motherfucker. I mean, they're expecting you to be on your knees in front of them doing, maybe bowing down or doing something else even. And it's like, dude, no, I'm out, man.
Yeah. It just wasn't going to work out. Pretty simple. I had to make a decision. The sport originated in Brazil and Japan. The Japanese market was very strong. Bushido, the Warriors Code is all a big part of their culture. So it was widely accepted in the Japanese market. They had Shuto. They had a lot of other organizations. So I went over and bought a couple times for Shuto, for rings, bought AOK tournament over there in that couple years when I kind of stepped away from the UFC because of the title or the contract dispute. But it worked out.
Did you get a little discriminating? I watched this one fight and it was like in blurred TV. It was in Japan because they don't have the cage there. They have the ropes. And you guys are all the way against the side of the ring, and the ref repositions you and has you lay down with the guy on top of you holding your neck. And I'm like, that doesn't look very fair.
That sucked. That was my first loss in the sport.
Okay.
Russian kid in a rings match, and we got caught up in the second rope. Yeah. He was trying to do a Kimura, which generally is pretty easy to get out of. He was still standing and laying on the second rope down and trying to Kimura me, which wasn't going to work. They stopped the fight, move us to the center, and then give him a real submission position and restart the fight. I was like, "What are you doing?" Basically, just handed him the fight and the position. I think they expected me to go nuts, to freak out and go crazy. And because I maintained my composure, I almost kind of won them over.
Really?
Because of my demeanor after the loss.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you've got to make friends with the potential that you're going to lose a fight.
Yeah.
And if you don't put that proper framer on that and kind of prepare for that eventuality, it's a volatile sport. Nobody wins every match. this doesn't happen. I think because my wrestling background had been, been in some of the biggest matches you could be in and managed to come up short psychologically, mentally, and already developed skills to, guess what? The sun's coming up tomorrow.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be okay. Just keep your wits about you.
Yeah.
Keep plodding. Study what you did and how you can improve. In those losses is where my opportunity to get better is. So you got to embrace that. That if you can't embrace the eventuality that at some point you might fail, then what are you doing? You need to recognize those failures are opportunities for you to correct, to make adjustments. The refiner's fire. We live in that. Got to be willing to put it out there and risk failing.
What you just said there, all right? So Chuck Liddell, they made a kind of a celebrity out of him. He was in the commercials and shit, and people that were paying attention knew exactly who you were too and stuff. And I believe it was after the Lesnar fight, right? You went down a weight class, correct, to fight Chuck?
I had been down at light heavyweight for a while.
Okay.
And then went back up to heavyweight to fight Lesnar and finished the rest of my career, for the most part, fighting at heavyweight. I'd always, I lost 2 fights in a row. I lost to Josh Barnett, and then I lost to Rico Rodriguez. I had one more fight left on my contract. They wanted me to fight Andrei Arlovsky. He ended up getting his hand broke 3 weeks out, so they couldn't find a replacement. So they said, hey, Tito is the champ at light heavyweight. He won't fight Chuck. We're going to strip Tito. Would you come in and fight Chuck for the interim championship? And again, I'm pushing 42 or 43 years old at this point. I don't think they ever liked me because I was an older heavyweight champion. I don't think they saw me being marketable. They wanted a younger guy like Pedro Hizzo or one of these other guys in there that they could get behind.
Right.
I think they thought Chuck would beat me pretty handily, and that would solidify Chuck. They'd be righteous in stripping Tito, and now Chuck would be their new light heavyweight champ. Obviously, I'd kind of been the fly in the ointment for these guys from day one. Beating Vitor, that first time literally set the tone for my entire career. I was an older athlete. I was gonna be I was gonna be an underdog because of my age in just about every single fight. And I don't know that I was ever a favorite, but I flourished in that environment. That was okay with me.
And I want to make sure I just heard something you said right, and my apologies to MMA fans if this is common knowledge, but are you saying Tito Ortiz was scared to fight Chuck Liddell?
Well, there's 2 stories, 2 sides to that. According to Tito, Chuck and him were friends. They'd been workout training partners for a while, and that they had this agreement that they wouldn't fight each other. Now Chuck says that's BS. We never had such an agreement, and I want my shot. I want my opportunity.
Yeah.
Yes, we're friends, or we were friends, and I want my shot, so you have to fight me. And so there's the 2 sides to that story. Who knows what the truth is? Somewhere in the middle, probably.
Yep.
They weren't going to wait anymore, and Chuck didn't want to wait anymore. He wanted his shot at being the number 1 guy, and it worked out.
I want to give a shout out to my friends at America's Benefit Center in Atlanta. They bridge the disconnect between having an insurance broker with no real relationship that's just handing off the account to the next guy for each different need. Rather, they take a much more active role in every piece of the puzzle, from premium negotiations, open enrollment meetings, and a wide variety of technology platforms. Not to mention, they are 100% Hispanic owned and have a bilingual team on hand for communication with your employees. For more information, check out americasbenefitcenter.com. I know these guys personally, and I can tell you they do things right over there. Go to americasbenefitcenter.com to meet your company's insurance brokerage needs. Okay, well, let's talk about you and Chuck real quick here. I don't want to spend too much time on that because I got a couple other things I want to make sure we get to. But you beat Chuck the first time you fought, and I alluded to this earlier. Then the next 2 times you lost. I guess my question for you would just give us some insight on, all right, if you fought 3 more times, is it going to be a 1-2 record, or did he get lucky those 2 times? I mean, how do you look at this when you have a series match like that and you're swapping victories?
Yeah, well, styles make fights, and sometimes style matchups. And again, Chuck is a very good wrestler. He wrestled at Cal Poly. I actually coached against him when I was coaching at Oregon State. He was wrestling at Cal Poly at 177. So I was very familiar with his collegiate wrestling. Now, he also had a kickboxing background, so he used his wrestling in a very defensive manner to keep fights standing and use that long, rangy striking that he had. I had to make friends with that in the first fight. I studied all the tape, saw a lot of the things he was doing. If you stood around in front of this guy and gave him that respect in his striking, then he was able to find that timing and land right on the end of those punches and knock a lot of guys out.
Okay.
I had to make friends with that potential that he could knock me out. And like, yeah, again, putting the right frame around mindset and right frame around that situation.
Right.
I said, I'm not going to stand around and wait for this guy to hit me. I'm going to hit him first.
Yep.
And make him question whether I'm shooting and trying to take him down or punching him. And this is where this, kind of level change, overhand right, and all that stuff came from in that training camp. And Dan Henderson, was part of my team. Matt Lindland. We had a lot of great guys there that helped me. Dave Hagan was my striking coach. He helped me focus on those entries and closing that distance and getting in his face and kind of taking him out of that rhythm that so many people let him get into.
Okay.
That was the difference in the first fight. Now, I always feel like the onus is on the guy who won the first fight. That guy's going to make adjustments. You got to take a wild ass guess as to what those are going to be.
Yeah.
Now, going into the second and the third fight, Chuck changed his style a little bit. He can just plan his fate and dare you to come into his range where he could catch you. He got on his bike and he started moving those feet and making it much harder to get a beat on him and take him down or get to him. And then as you chase him to try and close that distance, you come into his range where he has a chance to land a good shot. That was the difference between the second and third fight versus the first fight. He changed his footwork completely because he didn't want the same outcome that there was in the first fight.
Gotcha.
Now, a major difference in popularity because after the second and third fights, the Ultimate Fighter had already happened. So now we had this whole new pool of people that were watching our sport because of being on Spike TV week in and week out with the show.
Yeah.
A lot of people saw that first fight, which was obviously my favorite fight.
Yeah.
A lot of people saw that second and third fight, and that was, I think Chuck went on a 4+ year reign in that division. He literally cleaned out the division. He went back and fought Jeremy Horn, who was one of his few losses. He got wins over me, who was, again, one of his few losses. He beat Tito. Finally, Tito had to step up and fight him if Tito wanted to get a shot at the title. So there was two of those Tito fights that didn't go very well for Tito. So, Chuck kind of came into his prime after that first fight.
Well, you just said something interesting there. You get this whole new wave of fans, and the wave's bigger than what was there in the first place. And you're one of the OGs, man. You've been there the whole damn time, and you're watching this shit happen. And you get even like the Lesnar fight. This new audience is just seeing you up on the screen and seeing your record. Well, your record, maybe it's not like undefeated and shit, but you were doing some big time freaking matches, man. You know what I mean? It's got to be a little, as like an OG with this new wave of people, did you ever feel like, did you ever bitch uphill like fucking motherfuckers make a celebrity out of me?
No, I actually liked it. I like I said, I tended to flourish in that underdog spot.
Okay.
I think because of my age and just the timing of everything.
Yeah.
And we took another big step up with Lesnar because now we started drawing in all the WWE crowd that hadn't been watching MMA before Lesnar stepped in there. So again, the UFC was making business decisions to bring more eyeballs to this thing, and that's what Lesnar coming in was. They picked a good guy because Lesnar had that wrestling foundation that made him a pretty formidable opponent. I never felt butthurt. It never bothered me. I liked where I was at. Yeah. I liked that everybody was going to overlook me. Everybody was going to tell that old guy he can't do it, and stick it right where it needs to be. Prove them wrong almost every time.
Right.
Worked out. Championship spirit is not about winning all the time. Championship spirit is about how you face the adversity of losing, the adversity of those ups and downs in this sport. And I think that was a valuable lesson I brought in from wrestling, being in some of the biggest matches and coming up short. And so I'd been there. I already dealt with that psychological blows of that. And I think that made me pretty even keeled going through MMA and the ups and downs of that.
My daughters are at the University of Iowa, and they have a good ass wrestling team there. And I was telling her boyfriend recently, listen, man,
women and men now.
Yeah, I saw that. I told her boyfriend, he's a bigger guy, and I'm like, hey, you're gonna borrow something, and some littler guy starts a fight with you. if he's a wrestler, just say, thank you, sir, and walk away. You don't want to be getting in a fight with a wrestler at a bar. That's the only advice I'm ever going to give you, son. So.
I've had police officers tell me when they see my cauliflower ears, man, if I see an ear like that, I'm just shooting him. I'm not even going to play around.
Exactly, dude. Exactly. Well, listen, man, I'm a big dude too. And when some 170-pound guy like starts a fight with me, I'm like, all right, something's up. He's either got a gun or he's a wrestler. But hey, man, so I'm 6'5", 260 pounds. Me and you are walking through a narrow entrance at a mall. I'm going one way, you're going the other way, and I think nothing of you and give you a little, hard shoulder there. What happens to me? Do I end up in a chokehold or do you let it go?
I know. I don't have a chip on my shoulder. I don't have anything to prove to anybody.
Yeah.
Obviously, how you respond, I'm going to say, excuse me, sorry about that. And you respond, and where it goes from there is really kind of up to you. But I'm a smiler. Even when I'm walking to the cage, people are freaking out because I'm smiling.
Yeah.
I'm in my element. I'm having fun. This is my opportunity. Everybody can some sort of sociopath because I'm winking at people and smiling walking out of the tunnel. I've just never been that guy. I've always had a smile. I got more push-ups in basic training for smiling than anything else.
But you're laughing all the time.
When I'm nervous, when the tension's up, I'm probably going to be smiling.
I'm envisioning you getting yelled at in like Full Metal Jacket or something like that, making the whole squad run.
Exactly.
Because you can't stop laughing. Well, that's freaking hilarious, man. And everything you've just explained, I'm like the opposite. I'm like big dude and I get pissed all the time, and I just get up and tell people my size, and they go, I got a history of violence, sir. Do you really want to do this? if he doesn't turn around and walk away, I'm in trouble because it's probably a guy like you.
Yeah, I could play the old man card now. So you really want to do this? This is a lose for you. Even if you win this fight, you beat up an old man.
You either beat up an old man or got your ass kicked by one.
Yeah.
It'd be in poor interest for me and the audience not to ask you about this. And, in 2001, UFC changed ownership. Dana White became the CEO. And, the years following is kind of when everything skyrocketed. I already referred to you as an OG. You're already in there, right? And I think about the early days, man. I remember watching as a little kid, like Hoist Gracie and, people like that. I'm in Chicago. I think Ken Shamrock or something, if I got that name right, So you're one of these OGs, man, and but you got a lot of life still in you. You're going to be fighting for years still, almost a good decade or almost when Dana White comes in, and when we switch jobs and when we have in corporate America, you get a new boss. Sometimes they like to take out that hot shot sales rep. Sometimes they like to make an example of the biggest personality in that office. You and Dana have had this long-standing feud, and did it have anything to do with that dynamic where you're already there? He's the big dog.
Well, yeah. I don't think it was so much that. I think when they bought the company in 2001, I was 40 years old. I fought for another 10 years. I was going on 40, 39, almost 40. I don't think they thought this old heavyweight champion was very marketable. And they saw a lot of young guys in there that they could get behind, that would bring in the Latin American crowd or the South American crowd, and somebody they could get behind as their heavyweight champ. They kind of absorbed me when they bought from SCG, the old owners.
Okay.
And I happened, timing is everything, right? I had just signed with this is funny, in December of 2000, I was in Japan for 2 fights. Matt Liddell fought over there. Dan Henderson fought in Pride over there. I was cornering both of them. I sat down with Dana White and had a meeting over there about him maybe being my new manager.
Because he had not fought UFC yet.
He was representing Chuck and Tito at that time.
Okay.
And we talked about that, and I had already talked to a different group, and I was looking for new management. And I got back from Japan after New Year's. I got a message from Dana, said, hey, man, it was good talking to you. Unfortunately, there's something coming down the pike right now that I can't tell you what it is, but it's going to preclude me from being able to represent you. And I was like, hey, I appreciate you getting back to me, but I've already signed with a different group, so that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be anxious to see what's going on. And then literally a month later in February, it went public that the Fertittas bought the company, made Dana White the president of the new UFC, and they went about, launching a new marketing campaign to try and change the image and run towards regulation, run towards unified rules and some of these things had started with SCG. They had the savvy and the know-it-all basically to Lorenzo Fertitta, who was the Nevada State Athletic Commissioner for a while in boxing. He knew this, the lay of the land. They knew exactly what they were looking at.
Okay.
So
and then who put that deal together? Did Fertitta or did Dana?
Dana White and Lorenzo Fertitta went to high school together.
Oh.
Dana was their boxing coach. He was teaching Frank and Lorenzo Fertitta, or working with them, training them in boxing. They were very, very good friends.
Okay.
He was representing Chuck and Tito, and he kept telling them about this crazy sport, MMA.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, comes up for sale. He convinces them that, look, this is a ton of potential.
Yeah.
They bought it for $2 million, I believe.
Yeah. And then where did that money?
2016 sold it for $4.2 billion.
Nice little return, buddy.
Pretty good investment.
we call that a unicorn. Hey, so what is so where did that $2 million come from in the first place? Did they raise the capital, or do those guys have their own money?
Fertitta's own station. They own all the station casinos. They're a long-standing, established.
So they're like, oh yeah, we'll buy this Dana, a little high school buddy. Here you go. Have fun.
They're all entrepreneurs. All of that. Mr. Fertitta Sr. was one of the OG casino guys in Las Vegas. So there was no shortage of funds. They had that kind of money, and it was going to take that kind of money to turn the sport around.
All right. So advance, fast forward, what you just said makes all the sense in the world with your friction with Dana, but a quick Google.
My new management educated me on what ancillary rights were. These contracts were 17 pages long, had all kinds of ancillary right exclusions in there where they would own your ancillary rights in perpetuity. I didn't know what an ancillary right was. My old management didn't ever tell me what an ancillary right was. My new management, battle management, Jeremy Lappin, Peter Levin, they educated me. They came from Hollywood making movies. They knew what those ancillary rights were worth. And they, I was the heavyweight champion of the world at that time. They kind of absorbed me. Well, I had this new management that educated me. We took them to task over this new contract. I was due to negotiate a new contract with the new owners, and we wanted to carve out those ancillary rights. I believed I deserved to control those ancillary rights myself, not sign them away to this company that was going to put on these fights. And so that started the rub.
Hey, what does it mean? What does ancillary rights mean exactly? It means
my ability to write a book, my ability to do a movie, my ability to be in a video game, my ability to do clothes.
As what? As you?
As me.
Anything about
as
not your
Randy the National Couture.
Really?
Yes.
What? So wow.
This is the WWE model.
Yeah, I was gonna say that sounds like WWE. But
The Rock and John Cena had to ask permission from the WWE to be able to go out and do those things that they've done.
Yeah.
Because their contract, their ancillary rights were tied up with the WWE. It's the exact same model that Dana White and company are using to control fighters and own all of their ancillary rights. So I fought for those ancillary rights, and that put me on the wrong foot with those guys from day one.
Oh, wow. Wow. Back in the 80s, Mr. T, a nightclub in Chicago, sued Mr. T because he was their bouncer. They gave him that character with the mohawk and things, and he went on and did shit, and they sued him, and I'm pretty sure that they won. That's nuts. So you ended up signing it or didn't? How did that unfold?
No, I forced them to take those things out of the contract.
Wow.
And favored, they got strapped with the old THC game, video game. It wasn't a very good game. And when they bought the brand, they got also that kind of came with it. And they wanted to get into the video game market. I was in that original game, but I wanted compensation for being in that video game. They weren't making any money off of it. So I understood why they didn't want to give me compensation. But we put in a favored nations clause. If anybody else gets paid for a video game, you gotta pay me too. I'm the heavyweight champion in your brand and your organization. So they didn't like that at all. We just cleaned up and closed a bunch of holes, and I fought for my own ancillary rights in that contract. Now the upside to that is I'm one of the few that has my own ancillary rights. The downside to that is they figured out how to close all those loopholes in the contract. So fighters moving forward, we're going to have to sign an even worse, crappy contract than the one I was being asked to sign.
Gotcha.
So there was the upside and the downside. I didn't hear a single fighter chirping or getting behind me when I was fighting for my ancillary rights. Nobody everybody was just like hands off. They didn't want,
Who's
nobody
that?
wanted to be the Kurt Flood, from baseball that was trying to make changes and get a better deal.
Yep.
For me, it was just about doing what was right for me, my brand, my family, controlling as much of my own interest as I could.
Yeah. It's like the most popular guy on Wall Street goes to jail for a white collar crime, and now all of a sudden nobody knows about it. I was never friends with him. And that wraps up another episode of 2000% Raise. Thank you for listening. The best way to support our show is by leaving a rating or review on all platforms you listened on. And of course, by following, liking, or subscribing. Visit us at 2000percentraise.com or at John Cerasani on TikTok and Instagram. And of course, my YouTube channel at John Cerasani's 2000% Raise. Find all the ways to follow today's guests in our show notes. Thank you for being a part of our entrepreneurial journey.